When I studied even fine art in Paris, I was like actually the worst interior designer. I was so shy at the beginning. Like if you knew me 7 years ago when I moved to Malta, if my phone would ring, I would like panic and not pick up the phone. In Malta, we have such beautiful history. And I think that we need to honor also that kind of history that we have, especially given that I'm also working in this Airbnb space. We want to show people who come here what it means to be in Malta, not what it means to be in It can be like nice penthouse anywhere. And our property manager sent us a message and was like, by the way, the house went viral on TikTok. It had maybe 300,000 views or something. By this week, 2.5 million. I didn't know what services to offer. I didn't know what software to use. I didn't know how to price anything, what to charge. A big lesson that I learned, I think, last year was actually that
Hello everyone, welcome to one more episode of The Pure Street, your first and unique podcast about real estate market in Malta. My name is Ingrid and this is Tristan.
Hi.
Today we have a super special guest, a powerful woman. She is an interior designer, painter, sublessor, house flipper, and participant of Shark Tank 2022. Shalise Barnes.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So, Shalise, interior designer, painter, tell us a little bit for us how it started.
So it's a great question. I started when I was 18. Basically, I moved from US to Canada and from Canada to Paris. I studied actually fine art in Paris. And so I started with some paintings. You'll see some examples behind us. And I studied actually fine art for 3 years. When I moved to Malta, I started working just in like a basic, boring marketing job. And then from there, I started kind of buying and flipping properties. So this was in 2017. The property market, I think, was the highest increasing in like all of Europe that year in Malta. And so we had some really great returns. We had budgets of like 20,000 euros basically to do like structural works, new kitchen, all furniture, you know, painting, everything, like full renovation of these like old apartments. And we managed to work within that budget. I learned everything myself. Like I was there with a screwdriver by myself, like installing the kitchen, painting walls, like we had bought a spray gun to paint the rooms and stuff. So it was that was our first kind of like big project.
You started in the painting, and then you went to house flipping.
Yeah.
And because of that, you decided to go to the interior design.
Exactly.
That's the best way to learn.
Yeah. There's no better way. Like someone just drops you in the fire. Yeah.
You say like, okay, where do I start?
Yes.
And how it started this passion for you to, okay, now I have to look for the interior designer?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at the beginning, like when I studied even fine art in Paris, I was like actually the worst interior designer. Like I swear, you could not even call it interior design. Like I had no idea what was going on. No, and yeah, just some pillows that were like an attempt at something. But then from there, actually, this experience of renovating the house, putting together the plan, the project, and basically I learned through like YouTube and like Pinterest references. And then ultimately design principles are pretty similar whether you're doing fine art or like 3D kind of interior design. You know, it's about color, scale, composition. So these are all pretty fundamental techniques that we learned in like fine art school. So then from there, basically, yeah, I learned to apply them. I just posted like some photos of our first house flip on a Facebook page, and then someone like called me to do it. Like it never happens to me now. I do so much digital marketing. People don't just call me like, and I just left it there. And someone had called me. I think this was 2018 or something like that by then, and yeah, and then asked me to do their house, and I project managed and designed a bit their house, and like yeah. And then just continued.
And it took you to Shark Tank.
Yeah.
So, I think something was right when you started. And how was this process for you to go to Shark Tank, Shalise? Because you needed a preparation. You see that everything kind of worked out for you to be there. How was it for you?
I mean, to be honest, I applied thinking like my safety net was that they will never actually put me on this show. So I didn't have to be worried. But then in the end, obviously I got selected, and then it was horrible to be there, to be honest, because I was so afraid. You know, I'm actually like quite introverted and quite shy. And so then to have to go into this like big group of people and present in front of this situation with like cameras, and the cameras are on like a motion swivel. It's like super dramatic. And I was was like, what is happening?
More camera than we have here.
Yes, like so many and it's so serious. And they were like, it was like all very like busy chaos kind of behind the scenes, and you have to go up and be collected and presentable. And the night before my presentation, we had a rehearsal, and in the rehearsal, it was like in front of the production team, and I was so bad because I got so nervous that I just panicked. I didn't remember anything that I was supposed to say. I was like trembling, and and the production team looked at me and they were like, "So first of all, calm down." And I was like, "I'm fine." And but basically, so I went home that night. I reworked my whole speech to make it shorter, so I didn't have to like scare myself for so long, and then the next day I was supposed to present, but in the end, they kept delaying my presentation. So I was there for 3 hours, and I knew that like if I let myself get nervous, then I would forget everything. So to try to stay calm, I just like meditated on a chair for 3 hours in my outfit for the presentation, and people would come in the room and be like, "Is she sleeping?" And I was like, no, she's meditating. It's so funny. 3 hours, just to like keep my heart rate down, stay calm. And
we have great players from Malta there, so I understand you are like...
Exactly, yeah. And so then to give my presentation, it was fantastic. I was so glad to see the reception from the investors, and it was such an honor to have this validation, not only for my business, but for me as a business person. And in the end, behind the scenes, obviously, we were like negotiating terms and stuff, and we didn't end up like striking a final deal. Obviously, on the show, we discussed terms, but then in the end, there's a lot of fine print to go through, basically. But it was super honored to be already like in that group and to be validated by those people. And
what changed it in you personally, like before Shark Tank and after?
I was so shy at the beginning. Like, if you knew me, I don't know, 7 years ago when I moved to Malta, if my phone would ring, I would like panic and not pick up the phone. No, I swear. I was. Yeah, exactly. If there was like even to like, to call a restaurant, make a reservation, I was like, can we send an email? Like, I swear I was so shy, and I think I had also a lot of insecurity still, and maybe it was a lesson in also having the audacity to ask for something. And I think that was a lesson where I think sometimes we're taught that if you are like kind of self-sacrificing, where you don't think highly of yourself or you don't ask for too much, it can be you're somehow like a good person in whatever form that means. But ultimately, that by asking for what you want, you can get it. You just have to like have the willingness to ask for it, and like it doesn't mean you're a bad person, it doesn't mean you're greedy. It just means like you want something, you want to create something, and so it gave me that push basically. And also from there, I got invited to like lots of networking things. I got invited on a trip to Salone, to Milan, like from a big furniture company locally.
After Shark Tank.
Yes, yeah.
A lot of visibility.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have the choice to don't be shy anymore.
Exactly. I had to go, and I had to have meetings and stuff, At the beginning, when I would do even client negotiations, for example, I would prepare, a script like 3 days in advance, rehearse it and everything. And now I'm like, oh, we'll be fine.
Almost the same for us in real estate. At the beginning, we're like, okay, think about the price, the location, what we can say. Now we just go through and we know what we have to say.
And even calling, should I call? No, and then you feel shy.
Yeah.
There is a point in your professional life that you need to learn. I cannot do that anymore. And I changed. And professionally, Shalise, because personally, you're not shy anymore. How this attitude of your personality changed your professional career?
I mean, first, I think, I learned so much about claiming space, kind of, and I think for a while in my career, I was so... I don't want to say desperate, but when you start like a business, ultimately like you're like losing cash for a while, right? And like, there was like a time where I was like living on like coffee and cigarettes because I was like, I was like, well, we have to like go to work, right? So and I mean, from there, I started to realize actually how to curate my clients more clearly, and that maybe not everyone will actually like to work with me either, and same maybe I will not like to work with them. And being able to kind of take the risk of saying no to work. This was like part of my journey after Shark Tank, was learning like when to say no to people. And like when I see that already, like it can be just personality, you know, it can be just that simple. Or maybe the project is like, I can feel that maybe they're very stressed with the deadline. It's not really my type of project. I would be putting myself out of my comfort zone. I don't know if maybe I would deliver the standard of result that they want as well. And so just learning, even if like, you know, you're like, but maybe I don't have any clients for the next 6 months, like I really need a client, and then someone comes, and being able to just hold in and say like no, or, you know, you just charge them like quite a lot until they say no.
So from this, Shalise, you learn how to say no, and then you can choose the designs that you already want, right? And I saw in your Shark Tank episode, nice speech, by the way, that you said that you worked by yourself, right? So saying no really helps you to choose because you're by yourself, right? And it changed that, and choosing the designs. How was this process for you to choose nice designs then?
I mean, I've been curating, I think, a bit my style over the last few years as well. And more than just style, I think informed from my kind of artistry background is that I want to tell a story. And it's more important for me to tell a cohesive story, which I think then informs the design. Because I think you can have nice design that's super beautiful, but if it's not telling a story, people will just look at it and say, this is pretty, you know, but it doesn't embody anything more. Like, for example, in Malta, we have such beautiful history and so many old houses, you know, that are like old or a bit run down, or even just maybe like quite nicely redone as well. It can be. And I think that we need to honor also that kind of history that we have, especially given that I'm also working in this Airbnb space. We want to show people who come here what it means to be in Malta, not what it means to be in, it can be like nice penthouse anywhere, you know what I mean? But what does it mean to be here? Like, what does that embody, and what makes it different to be here than in Spain or in like Italy or in other parts of the Mediterranean? So I'm really working on curating that story side, and obviously there's like a lot of principles. Like, I don't know, I like pink. I like to work with plants. Usually I'm going between like pink and blue and like plants, and basically
Yeah,
like
so you can keep your touch, but still doing like in the, if we take the example of Malta, like the multi-style.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and then you start by, you saw this lack in Malta about bringing this personality to the apartment, and you learned by yourself to do this design. So Malta was in need, in your opinion, of this traditional design.
I saw even, I think that's why when I started years ago, I just put these, you know, like I took them on my iPhone photos, you know, of this apartment that we renovated. And I think already at that time, there were so few people kind of curating in my style. And like now there's a bit more. I see that the kind of trend is coming a bit more. There's like some other girls that I see who have like their own business, and they're more a bit closer to my style, but I see that they're still not embodying the full story. Like they can take the principles, but when you don't create the story,
something.
That's it. Yeah. You can use, for example, certain materials on the walls, or you can add plants everywhere. But like if you don't have the story, it's never going to be the same kind of. And I think that's the difference.
That's amazing. You need to have stories to bring people there. And it worked for you. This is what you were looking for in the house flipping, for example.
Yes.
You still do the house flipping.
I mean, now I'm kind of leaving Malta with house flipping. I'm starting to like invest in some other places. I'm looking at, for example, Sicily next, because I know it's like it's quite cheap there to buy property. So your capital is going further than in Malta for like similar kind of budgets of projects and like similar market. I mean, the building style I'm really familiar with. It's like here, like, you know, so. And I speak Italian, thankfully, or like kind of, I try in my like Sicilian, and so that's where I would be doing like this kind of flipping next, basically. But outside of just flipping, I'm doing a lot of like subleasing projects. So basically, I was finding old houses that needed restoration. Can be 400-year-old palazzo or farmhouse, something like this. And using investors and creating a partnership where we would invest our money into renovating those houses. So I have a portfolio of 2 that we had actually renovated, another one that I just have in my kind of portfolio, and then my own house where I live as well. Yeah.
And talking about your own house, is there any particular thing that you bring from you to all the houses that you design?
I mean, My style is usually eclectic as well, which means eclectic is like a nice word just to say basically like a mismatch of stuff, like things that shouldn't go together but do somehow. And so like, for example, I like these kind of old historic houses, but then instead of lights, I put like disco balls and I like light the disco balls. So it's like you have this mix of new and old and this like extreme comparison kind of. And I noticed that the more you combine, for example, this kind of postmodernist style, which is usually characterized like, the chair doesn't look like a chair. It looks like a sculpture, you know? So you have something like that in an old house with like, for example, it looks like water was running down the walls. Like something, it looks even like the house was abandoned, but you have this like super modernist furniture, so you have that kind of contrast.
Okay, we can put here some ideas of what you do. You can see around. That's amazing.
Okay. I mean, when you say this, I'm like, as we saw a lot of places in our market, it's like you bring Valletta in Malta. Because like Valletta is, now we can see like a lot of people, place were more modern than you can find in Malta, but still keeping this like old style, but still just refurbished and all, nothing like nothing crazy. It's still old but new in the same time, but nothing special. So that's why I like Valletta. She bring Valletta in Malta. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you share some of your biggest projects?
Well, right now we're working on closing one big project, which I'm really excited about, but this is not now. So hopefully in another episode we talk about it. But my biggest project that I worked on so far was actually one of my own investments. We invested in a 300 square meter palazzo in the 3 cities. I saw it a few years ago. It was like for rent, also at a good price. Corner block, you know, amazing features and stuff. 3 stories with a rooftop with a sea view. It's fantastic. And basically, I project managed the whole renovation from the beginning. I designed the space, and I also brought together the investors for this project. And and so we just finished basically in the last few months. It's a jungle theme of the house. So every room is themed after an animal, and it really embodies that like eclectic vibe that we were talking about. In the end, I think we invested almost 200,000 euros. So it was like a big project. Yeah.
Since how long time you are on it?
This, I think when I saw it in August last year. So like it was 1 year and a half that I was like from when I saw it until like it was finished basically.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. It's a huge project.
Yeah.
Actually, from maybe you are in the business for what, 6-7 years? So this is amazing.
Yeah.
And you have any stories of designs that you're super proud of?
I mean, I have a lot of stuff I'm proud of, especially in the last few years. Yeah. It was also a long journey to create my style and to learn more technical stuff within design work. I have one project that we're going to photograph in the next few months. And it's fantastic. It's like, I don't know if you've seen these kind of minimalist Bali villas, you know, this kind of vibe where they're like full of plants, but the walls are like concrete, for example. So you have this kind of vibe. And that's what we did in like an apartment, basically, which is, again, because I'm specialized in working in Airbnb myself, because I have this portfolio of properties. And ultimately, the houses that I flipped before, we also used to Airbnb those. So basically from that, I have all of this experience in Airbnb already. So I'm using that to kind of leverage for my clients who are investors. I don't really work in people's homes. I do a little bit, but I prefer to work in Airbnbs.
I'm curious now. There is in Malta, we can find your place in Airbnb? I will look for one.
Yeah.
You have to go for one.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Actually,
I'm so
this big project I was mentioning, the one in 3 cities, last week we had a guest who stayed in the property, and our property manager sent us a message and was like, by the way, the house went viral on TikTok. And when he sent it to us last week, it had maybe 300,000 views or something. We were like, wow, it's amazing. By this week, 2.5 million.
Wow.
Yes, and my other investor partner on the project, she's actually my best friend for many years. She went through every single comment that was asking for the listing, and she replied to every one of 1,500 comments she went through to post this.
So now this place is booked until 2000.
I think, yeah. And even the property manager as well wrote over the weekend right after she did that and said basically that the house had so many bookings over the weekend.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's find this link so
Yeah.
let's see what is the house we're talking about.
Yes.
This is amazing. So
Yeah.
I can see that you also have more projects regarding that.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you see like your next project in 5 years, for example?
I mean, right now I'm working on growing my kind of organic marketing presence. So I'm working a lot on YouTube, for example, where I'm filming also content for like properties in Sicily. Because I think it's very investable right now, and as well I have a lot of knowledge there, and because I have this kind of transatlantic like connection, I know also there's a lot of Americans and Canadians trying to buy property in Italy, and they don't know anything about it, and it is a bit complicated actually, and you do need a bit of language skill. So I have already my portfolio of properties that I think are investable. And from there, I'm using their like floor plans to create a 3D model of it finished, like designed.
Okay, yeah.
And then from there, I do like a video explanation with a walkthrough tour explaining basically why you should invest in this property, how much it would cost and what it can look like, and why we designed it that way. So that would be my next step, is to find more clients for this kind of thing, as well for helping them actually consult with them to actually purchase the property there, which is its own whole story. And then from there, I mean, my dream is to have a portfolio of properties like operating as luxury hospitality, maybe boutique hotel across the Mediterranean. That would be amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For sure.
And using maybe investors' money as well. But ideally, it would be people that don't have maybe so much capital. I don't want like millionaires. I want like people who have, 20, 30, 50,000. It's not enough to buy a house in any major city in the world anymore. Like, forget about it. So at least that can get you an investment somewhere else that will make you then greater returns and maybe give you some kind of passive income stream.
And
So
like taking for like few investors, take them all in the same place, and after they
Exactly.
are all rev share. Oh, that's nice.
exactly, like a fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it can work both in Malta and Sicily, many places as well.
I mean, ideally, we operate the whole Mediterranean.
So that can be the like my first invest maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depend of the
We'll
project.
talk
Yeah.
more about it. And I'm interested to know what exactly is your criteria to choose a place to house flip. You say, oh, this is nice for Airbnb.
That's a good question. I'm asking myself the question right now.
I want to know. I really.
I mean, okay, so when I'm looking in Sicily now, for example, the structure of the townhouses that are available there that have been built in this historical way, usually from also like turn of the century, like 1900s, 1800s, basically you can divide them into 2 units quite easily. You usually have a separate entrance downstairs, which is used as like a store or a garage, and then you have an upper floor. Sometimes the upper floor you can divide it also in 2 units. So already you're looking at basically 3 units from one property, minimum 2.
No, you optimize the space, and after
Exactly.
like, it's all on you, and you can do what you want.
And then usually you have one kind of studio downstairs, for example, and based on my calculation, I'm estimating net revenues from each property, or let's say each unit, at like 10,000 annually. So ideally you make more, but even if you don't, for this level of investment, we're talking like under 50,000 for a house, you get 2 units, that makes 20,000 annually. So you're looking at 40% returns. I mean, they're huge. So,
yeah, so are you looking more like you are looking more for house than apartment or
Yes,
something like
houses,
you
yeah.
house and after
Yeah.
you just divide.
I mean, huge. It depends how much you want to invest, Tristan. Then we get a bigger one.
We see after.
But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I'm looking at, for example, general condition of the property. You can see quite quickly through photos what condition the roof is in, for example. But even if the roof needs to be replaced, I mean, I have like kind of cost scenarios for all of these different things. And then, for example, you have to look as well at the state of the properties nearby, because maybe your house is like abandoned, full of water, the roof caved in, but you can fix that. But if your neighbor's house is the same, you will forever have water coming in, and then you need to buy that one too. And then, it can be a compounding issue, basically. So that's something to look out for. As well, in Sicily, again, like here, they have a lot of humidity. They're building with similar materials. So something that's higher versus in the valley, immediately you're going to have less water problem.
Nice.
So that's something to look out for.
And it's interesting for you to say that because I myself had this kind of experiences. I see an amazing place in the pictures. When you get there, the neighborhood matters. Right? So it's nice that you to say that as well. And here in Malta, you have many problems by checking the neighborhoods.
I mean, neighborhood
I don't think
here.
It's the biggest problem in Malta, the neighborhood. You know?
Everything is quite small. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful now. It's like maybe changing quite a lot as well. My biggest concern actually with Malta is that if we start losing so much Maltese heritage, you know, everyone is, for example. You have maybe old Maltese townhouse from 1920s. They drop it, they build a block of, I don't know, 4 or 8 flats, something like this. Okay, if you build a block in your traditional style, it's another story, but no one is doing this. They're building like these like cheap aluminium railings that you go like this and they fall off.
IKEA stuff, modern, easy way.
Exactly.
We have all the same apartment
exactly.
now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, I get it. Like, you know, I'm in this industry too. I see the value of like investing in these kind of places, especially that Malta is so limited in terms of economic resources. Like, you know, we only have basically property and construction. But ultimately, if all of us who are working in tourism all drop every nice house in Malta to build hotels, and then the tourists are going to come and what? Like look at other hotels?
I don't know.
So I don't see that. My concern is for the sustainability actually of the economic and tourism market because, you know, property is a long-term game. Property is not like people are thinking like you make money next year. Okay, you'll make money next year. And then 20 years after, what's going to happen? You will still own the property. So it's about being careful. It's about being sustainable with not only the materials that you select and how you build, but actually what you build. Because we need to think, all of us who are working in this space, about the sustainability of that market.
You also think a lot about the sustainability part.
Yeah.
And that's important for you to go to the property.
Yes.
And regarding it's like Malta now, like we can see in Gżira, Sliema, St. Julian's, they are building like new stuff everywhere. You are more focused on that city, or you are more looking like for, I don't know, like the north, the south, the other part of Malta. Like you're looking more for busy place, or you try to.
It's a good question.
Them.
I mean, there's a lot of beautiful historical places still in Malta outside of these areas that you mentioned. In general, for me right now, I'm not taking on actually any more subleasing properties here because I have one in 3 cities, one in Gozo. Yeah. I have my house in Sliema and another one in Imsida, and they're all like quite diverse. So for me, my most sustainable option is to create a diversity in my portfolio so that then, you know, if single people who have like low budget are not coming to stay in 3 cities anymore, I have other properties around.
You said like one in Gozo, one in Imsida, Sliema, and so.
Exactly. So I kind of covered the major
the best
areas, you know.
It's the best answer I can
That's it. Yeah. But I mean, I think that there's a lot of investable opportunities outside. Places like, for example, Zebuj, like the south is coming up a lot now. Zebuj, Zeytun, these are like popular places as well because young people who are now of the house buying age here in Malta are seeing the potential of doing up these kind of old townhouses. Whereas before, people wanted to go away from that because, you know, I think we always want to escape our grandma's house, you know, and like whatever grandma had, like grandma sofa. I remember my grandmother's house like was in this mid-century style and now I'm like, oh, mid-century. But like there's actually so much beauty to these places that like we're just kind of trying to escape from in our youth somehow. But then as we get older, we come back to that with new eyes, you know, and appreciate it so much more. And so I see that trend happening in a lot of young people buying townhouses, for example, and in places like Zebuj, Zeytun, Zabar, for example, like these kind of places.
To keep the traditional.
Yeah, and even me, like, I think it's also for the price, but I have like more and more people who told me like I want to go out of Sliema and Julian's because too many people, and it's every time the same thing. Like me, I had some clients. They told me, okay, let's go further. I can have something maybe more typical, huge, like thing like this. So it makes sense. I think for your business, it's the same.
Yeah, nice. Absolutely. Even places like, for example, whenever I drive up north, I always drive home through Guardia. I don't know if you know this place. It's like a bit, you know, Guardia. It's like a bit niche place, but it's very tiny. And it's like just on the hill overlooking kind of Bourguiba, St. Paul's Bay area. And like it's maybe 10 minutes from St. Paul's Bay with the car or something like this, but it's just beautiful. It's so peaceful. There's only farmland around. And I just drive through and I look at the old houses and they're just like, it's like my little peaceful meditation when I drive, before I drive back to Sliema, the Strand, like so busy. Yeah.
Yeah, but we still can find nice places here, right?
For now, hopefully.
They're not being so destroyed for
But
the
as she
non-traditional.
It's not short term. Like I think in 5-10 years it will be more and more difficult to find this kind of properties here.
But it really makes sense what you said, because people come here to have this traditional,
That's it, yeah.
traditional balcony. So imagine if they come here and there is only hotels.
I mean, when you go to the airport, because I was just traveling the other week, I saw at the airport under the overpass, they have just photos of Maltese balconies. And I was like, but why are you even trying to sell this to someone when you're allowing everyone to demolish these houses left, right, and center? They have no preservation over these. Okay, a bit in places like, for example, Valletta, Three Cities. I'm not going to say that they are not, but like I do see that there's a lot of this kind of laxity in the regulation. And I've been here 7 years. I've seen it change a lot, even in that 7 years, really. Like, it's changed so much. And even there will be, like, my favorite house with a garden, and then a permit goes up, and I'm like, oh, no. I always check what it says on the permit, because not just about, I'm not against business. I'm not against, like, economic growth or anything like that. But what I want is sustainable growth. Because ultimately, I'm working in tourism. If they build every hotel, 500 like suite hotel, and demolish, rows and rows of houses to do that, and there's only hotels left on the island, no one's going to come.
Yeah,
then I'm going to get fucked too, basically, right? So, I mean...
You can go anywhere else because it's going to be the same.
I don't know here the restriction, but like in France, for example, if I take my country as example, because I know if you want to build something, to refurbish something, to do something like in a visible side, you have to follow so many rules. Like you have to keep like certain certain colors, type of bricks or everything. And I don't know if here it's the same, or if you I just buy it on house, I demolish it and I build what I want.
I mean, they do have some regulation over it, but the way I envision the future is more like what you're describing, where, for example, we use like one material. We always integrate these kind of historical features like these Maltese balconies, and like you limit the height of the construction because ultimately everyone's building 13-story towers. I mean, like,
we will have like 20 Mercury towers.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, like Mercury Tower is sitting there empty. Like who is even there? It's like also Airbnb, right? So what are they going to come to see when there's another Mercury Tower in front of them, right? So it's like it's a compounding issue. That's what I see. But I would love to see more regulation like that.
Okay, but there is not enough for you think?
That's it. Yeah. Okay. I think it's just we should be more. I think, and maybe I don't want to say we because I'm not Maltese, but I think that we who are here, we should all be proud of this little island. It's like especially us, like we chose to come here, right? I think it's different. We see it maybe with different eyes because of that, but. I was living in Paris before, and I moved here over Paris.
Same, I live France for here, and
exactly.
I'm enjoying the fact. And but me, I have my street just downstairs my apartment, and like there is it's full of Maltese balcony, for example, and like there is all the color, and it's so beautiful. I just love this street. One of my look. There is a Maltese balcony everywhere. And after you just go 100 to 200 meters away. And construction, modern building, it's changed from a street to another one. It's like crazy.
Yeah. And how do you incorporate that to your job, Shalise, to keep the Maltese tradition in it?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm working in these big blocks that I'm talking about, so like I'm not necessarily like renting and renovating spaces in them. I'm more focused on the historical side, but like, I mean, if the right client comes to me with the right project, I will not say no just because I don't necessarily agree with the building that it even exists, maybe. I mean, ultimately I work for the client. So like I don't work for big developers, that's for sure. I think also my business ideas, and again, about personality, I don't think we have the same values, but for individual clients who buy like flats in these developments, I'm super happy to help them. But I do try to integrate these like kind of more specific things around being placed here in Malta in a way that doesn't feel out of context. Like, for example, we're not going to do, I don't know, fake old rustic limestone walls in a new built apartment, you know, because then it's like you create a lie kind of, and people see through that quite quickly because they know that this house is not made of old limestone, right? So it's like it needs to be authentic to like the space and to the character of the home, but you place them here. I always go like with this kind of organic Mediterranean vibe basically, and like encouraging people to stay outside. Is really important. So integrating the living area, for example, always next to the window or next to the balcony is like an important way to make people like appreciate more the light. And yeah.
What was your biggest inspiration to keep this line of design?
I mean, I'm ultimately quite inspired by my travels actually. So, and I travel a lot to like North Africa. And in Malta, as much as no one wants to say, but there is a lot of connection with actually North African history as well. Like very Sicilian also, very European, very like Italian influence, but there's a lot of connection with North Africa. And in my travels around, I see a lot of the similar, for example, architecture, like styles, the similar materials being used. And there's something that I love about seeing actually like an old, like maybe abandoned building. And there's something so beautiful about like even the paint that's like slowly peeling off the facade, for example, because it again goes to the history and the story. You know, that building has like a story. What's the story of it? Like the roof caved in, you can see it's just like jungle inside. And I'm like, then I want to know more kind of. And maybe that's because, I don't know, I was like very isolated when I was a child. So I just like watched movies and read books. So my imagination is like crazy, you know? And like maybe it's influenced as well by these kind of romantic stories of like abandoned houses, like secret gardens and stuff like this. And that feeling of maybe mystery, I think is really important to kind of integrate.
That's amazing. So I can see the passion that you have in these designs, right? And you were recognized of that, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your awards?
I mean, I had applied actually for some awards last year and I didn't win. But then as soon as I came back from December holidays, the first week of January, I got a big award, which is the Luxury Lifestyle Award. It's an international award show. They're based in South Africa, and they recognized one of the flats that I designed and finished that year. So that was super exciting. And then I went as well to another awards show, like just maybe a month or two ago, and I got 5 awards. One of them was Best Woman in Construction, Best Interior Designer, and there were like a few more, but those are my favorite.
Best Woman in Construction.
I was like, wow.
Okay.
I take it with me to the building site. Don't forget.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
You have enough space in your place to keep all of them?
My
It's
assistant
okay?
was like, Shalise, I have to buy you a new shelf. And I was like, honestly, yeah. I'm like dusting them, you know?
So maybe if you continue like that, we'll have more to put in the
I'm
shelves.
hoping, yeah. I'm actually applying for more competitions now as well this year. I had done a few, but we got nominated in like kind of top 5 in some categories, but we didn't win anything. So now I'm doing some more competitions to see.
And now you are looking for like international competition? You
Yeah, they're
apply
always
for-
international.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
There was one that I did earlier this year. It was a collaboration with a studio from Iran, because again, I like this kind of North African, you know, like inspired architecture. They also have really similar climates, so it was a lot about sustainability in building, for example, how to build without AC and stuff like this. So it was a really cool project. The firm that I collaborated with is someone that I've been admiring also for a really long time, and I just reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it with you." And I was like, "Oh wow!" So yeah, that was a project for Dubai, for the Dubai government. Basically, there was like an award of like 100,000 euros in the end, but we didn't win. So womp womp.
You're going to apply again for the next year?
Yeah, I applied already for another one.
And
This
then you
time,
come back with the trophy.
exactly, and like 100 grand cash. No, this year I'm applying also for a Moroccan retreat kind of concept creation. It's for also like the royal family of Morocco, and we have to design a sustainable like family house for them, and also like kind of community center with a luxury hospitality aspect. And so that I think the news will come out like in 1 year or something. So we have quite a while to go through the project still.
It's a great journey.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to a person that is starting to look for this career in the interior design?
It's a good question. I mean, one thing I wished I had done when I started was to have at least interned somewhere, because I didn't study interior design, and I felt that compared to some of my other friends who are designers and who studied, that my pace of initially growing my business was much slower because I didn't know what services to offer. I didn't know what software to use. I didn't know how to price anything, what to charge. Like, I was calling one of my friends and she was telling me, yeah, my like retainer for my project manager. I was like, wait, you charge a retainer? How much is your retainer? Game changer. I was like, wow. And so I had to kind of build what services I even offered first. And then obviously learning how to use the software and stuff to integrate with them. So I would recommend to definitely like at least do an internship somewhere. Even if you don't study, like learn something practically, work under someone, have a mentor, something like that will, because then you can use that. And that works for any kind of entrepreneurship space, I think, as well.
And I will add and find your own style, I think.
Yes.
Because you, like when you do something you like and it's your touch, it can, like for the client, can be more attractive. Like they will see the story that you was speaking about before.
Yeah.
So
it's about your own authentic voice. I think any creative space, or maybe any business actually, is like that as well, right?
Yeah,
like where as long as you are authentic with your message and who you are, people will come to you for that. Like, otherwise they will go to everyone else who is like pretending to be someone else, so.
And what words of wisdom? That was one. And I will give it. What words of wisdom would you give to people?
A big lesson that I learned, I think, last year was actually that don't let life pass you by on the journey. Because, like, if you, for example, I had a long time where I only had goals for things, and then as soon as I would accomplish the goal, I wouldn't even be happy. It would be even worse, my mood, kind of, because I was like, now what? Then now there's no goal. And, like, now I have to set a new goal.
I have nothing more to do now.
Exactly. And I was like, how devastating. Like, I closed, like, big projects that I was, like, really stressed about for, like, years. Like, 2.5 years I was stressed for these projects and for this client. And I closed them. And I was like, finally. And then it was, like, empty hole for, like, 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, wow. So, like, learning how to be gentle with yourself, I think, is part of that, and not just having the expectation of like that you only need to make money all the time. Because first of all, our rest time is productive. Like when sometimes when my employee like leaves the house, I will just rest for like an hour, and then I go back to work, and I'll work until 10 p.m.
Yeah.
But I need that or I take the dog on a walk or something like this, and I need that rest time so that I come back and I'm even more productive actually. Yeah. And just being gentle with yourself in that way, and allowing yourself to have hobbies, for example, that just bring you joy, like just for no reason, not to make money. Even my paintings, I'm not selling them. I just make them like to tell the story and like to express like how I feel, right? And like, yeah.
And I have like one question in mind, because we spoke about all your achievement, rewards from where you start and who you are now. But me, I'm like the bad part of the story as well. I don't know if you have like a bad story with one client, or you deliver something and he look at you like, what the fuck?
I mean, I did have a kind of difficult situation with a few clients, and the number one actually was I had a client who it was quite early on in my career. I was, again, very insecure about everything. And like,
at the beginning.
I wanted him to just approve of me. I was like, please approve of me. I will do anything. I was like a dog. I will sit. Like, I will do anything just for you to tell me I'm a good girl. And every time I was afraid of something happening, it happened. Like, I was afraid he wouldn't like the apartment, like the artwork in the flat. I was afraid that I would have a problem with the contractors. And it was like, fear upon fear upon fear upon fear that came true. And then he would write me like super long, like, for example, like an A4 page, like an A4 page, and call me a failure, me specifically, how I'm a failure. And I would just cry.
This was when you didn't know to say no, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I didn't know how to set the boundary with him also, and be like, honestly, like, you cannot speak to me like that as well. Now I would handle it completely differently. But at the time I was like, you're right. I was like, oh, I was bad. Okay, I will do better. And like always chasing that. And I made it kind of even personal, for example, that I was actually a failure. Yeah. But then I realized after going through that experience, I had actually similar situation. Another client came, and like I started to get already from the beginning a strange feeling. That the cycle was repeating kind of. And so I decided to make a conscious choice then to not engage the way I had done before. And I just said, you know what? I'm here to help you. If you don't want to work with me, that's not my problem.
You're working in my way, or
That's
the
it.
work with
Yeah,
you,
yeah. I was like, I'm here for you. I did like, almost therapy sessions with them where I was like trying to unpack how they felt and what was wrong with the situation so I could deliver better. But then, I was like I didn't have this fear of rejection anymore. It was like just professional. And if you don't want to work with me, then like, yeah, I'll recommend for you to work with someone else. In the end, they canceled the project. I was devastated.
Yeah, but at the end,
I went to the studio.
Better this ending than, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I believe a lot of these lessons from the universe and stuff like that. I mean, it sounds like a bit hokey, but for me, they're real. I experienced it in my life. I accomplished everything I wanted to do in my life, so I know that it's real. And I see that moment, I was like, okay, lesson from the universe. I see it. I'm going to do something different. And I was like, how dare you take away my client? I thought this was going to be different. But that was the answer, actually, right? Was that this client was not right for me. And I was maybe not right for them as well. And that the process would be 2 years of headache and stress again, where they're not happy with me. So
learning how to say no also gives you this power over the rejection. Right? You say no, people say no, and it's okay.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You didn't lose a client. You like earn freedom.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, I would wake up because I take what I do really seriously, and I do want to deliver like a great level of service to my clients. And if someone is not happy with me, I will not sleep. I will until I have dreams about toilets. Like, what kind of toilet did I get? Did I order the wrong toilet? What about the color? Is it arriving on, and I will go into someone's bathroom and be like, oh, toilet. Not again.
I have an
Follow
idea.
me everywhere.
How was your night? A nice toilet.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd be like, oh God, not the toilet again. Oh, I have to go to the bathroom. Panic. But yeah, so that was like, I think my moment of grace where the universe was like, okay, you passed the test. And I was like, this is what it means to pass. Like, okay, rude, but fine.
I'm sad, devastated.
Yeah. I went to the studio, my art studio, just like throwing paint on the walls and stuff, writing with markers, like so angry.
And
but,
now there is a photo of this wall on Instagram.
Yeah.
Look, my new painting.
Yeah, exactly. And the painting is really nice and hopeful and like quite sweet, actually.
It took me a time to do them.
Yes. But my other biggest lesson, I would say, also for young people starting out, is like surround yourself with people that you admire somehow, that like push you in some way to be the version of yourself you want to be. And like, I think as we are evolving in general, we end up with a lot of friendships that are maybe from our past selves. And it's not that they're bad people or anything like that, but maybe they're just not matching where you're at now. And looking to curate those kind of friendships, like, really, my greatest inspirations are my friends, for sure. Yeah. And I'm really lucky to have that because I live far away, like I don't have much close family at all, actually, except my mom. Shout out to my mom, it's her birthday today. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, like, yeah, I'm able to surround myself with friends who push me, not just friends who are like, oh, how you do. No, it's like we have like deep therapy sessions, sometimes hours on the phone together, like trying to learn and understand from each other, unpacking what happened and like about a situation maybe that we're not understanding, or directions and lessons that we learned in all of our respective businesses, because most of my close friends, they all have their own businesses now. We all kind of grew it together and supported each other. And we're now able to kind of leverage that together as well.
Yeah, that's nice. But we can feel it in Malta that if you have good friends, like they will push you to go.
Yeah.
And after you just have to go.
Yeah. And I think we, like, as people, we take on a lot of, we like absorb from the people that we're around. And even if we're maybe don't speak to this person, even, whatever happens after years and years, we still carry a small part of them with us, right? And like, and I see how I've integrated these parts from my like close friendships in myself over time. It's made me like, for sure, like less shy, more outgoing, more confident, more professional as well. I take things less personally. More gentle, more kind with myself, like, in so many ways.
Little thing from everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Like... That create like the new version of me, like where I can be here now, and have this beautiful conversation with you guys. So
we are always learning, right?
It should
today
be.
I
Today
learned a lot.
Now I know that I have to do an Airbnb in the Tricity.
Yes.
And buy a property in Sicily.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and bring some like girl from TikTok to come stay to blow up that account. I mean, it's crazy.
Now I have new plans in Tonala.
This girl, she's not even an influencer.
It's amazing.
I swear.
And now it's easy in the social media.
It's crazy, yeah. When I saw that, I was like, let's bring some more Gen Z.
When the product is good.
And talking about TikTok, how people can find you there?
Yeah, I have also TikTok. It's under Project Artemis, like my YouTube channel as well, because I'm making these kind of investor projects. And Yeah, and one of the projects I'm working on now is actually collaboration with Regis as well and my property manager, Jamie, where we're doing kind of full service consultations for investors. So we help you determine what kind of property you should buy based on your budget, what's going to make you the most revenue. And then we put together the comprehensive design part and budget, which is where I come in. We project manage the whole thing for the client, and then ultimately Jamie will come in and do the property management later.
Amazing. Sounds a good project.
So what is your TikTok, Shalise, that people can find you on TikTok, Instagram,
Yes.
what social medias they can find you?
On TikTok, I'm under Project Artemis. YouTube also Project Artemis, and on Instagram and Facebook, Artemis Interior Design. You'll find me.
You can find you will find the description
Yeah.
the link below.
Yes.
So find Project Artemis on social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and The Furious Street, your podcast in Malta. See you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.